Hi everybody, welcome to All Games New and Old. I'm David Rodriguez and today I'm going to be reviewing Crimes in History, H.H. Holmes' Murder Castle. This was published in 2021 from Blueprint Gaming Studios and was designed by Brant Hoffman and Seth Cooper. Now, I actually do know quite a bit about this story, being a fan of true crime, but as usual I've decided to get an expert to kind of tell us more about it. So his name was H.H. Holmes. That can't be right. I'll see you soon, David. Oh, wow. That was really weird. I'm so sorry. That must have been some kind of weird prank. I'll just tell you about the theme. That's fine. So, H.H. Holmes was born Herman Webster Mudgett, but he later became known as Dr. Henry Howard Holmes. Now, he's known for a lot of things. He was a con man, he had multiple wives, but what he's most known for is being an American serial killer. And his methods were really unusual. He basically, during the World's Fair of 1893, got control of a building, and then he built it into a much larger building, into a hotel or apartment-style building. He would hire and fire contractors and builders, so no one really quite knew the layout of the place. Then, when he got people to come to his hotel, who were there to visit the World Fair, they would check in, and as the saying goes, they would not tend to check out. He had hallways that led nowhere. He had chutes that led to the basement to dispose of bodies. He had gas chamber rooms, all kinds of different ways that he would kill people so that he could later sell their skeletons to biology students in colleges for money. So, bad guy. He confessed to 27 murders, though some of the people he confessed to killing were actually still alive, so that number's probably a little skewed. Nonetheless, really not a great person and very much like a real-life Batman villain. But in this game, despite that dark background, it feels quite a bit lighter for some reason, but in this game, you are associates of H.H. Holmes. For some reason, you have some sort of connection to him, and the police think that you might be in on his murderous plot. So, you're going back into the castle and trying to gather as much evidence as you can to prove that you are innocent and Holmes is still guilty. And if anyone else gets in your way, I mean, who cares if they're found guilty or not? So, you're trying to get your stuff, get out of there as fast as you can, and clear your name. That's basically what this game is about. So it plays from 2 to 6 players. It says it takes about 20 minutes. I usually find it to be at least a little bit longer than that, but it is a fast-playing game. Let me take you to the gameplay and you can see exactly how it works. Alright, so I have this set up for a 2-player game. I'll show you a couple of little differences in a game with more players, but as you know, my space is kind of limited, and so everything's all scrunched together more than I would generally like, but it'll be enough to kind of show you how the game works. So I've got my characters picked. Each one has a special ability up in the corner. Jonah Nisbet's is that it says he is the mason. He can construct a brick wall anywhere in the castle, or he can destroy a brick wall if it's adjacent to the room you occupy with a connecting door. So he gets one of these brick wall tiles. There's a couple more that are shuffled in with the rest of the room tiles. I have Little Radcliffe, who can mimic the last event card that was played or discarded. Those abilities are used just once per game. So once you've used it, you flip over that, it shows your character's picture again, and that's done. You can use those abilities really pretty much during any of your turns, though. I've got the first player token here, which is a cool little key. Now, the different colored cubes, they represent different kinds of evidence, so you don't really need to know this, but the blue ones are castle blueprints, the yellow is false insurance claims, the green is money from sold skeletons, the white is advertisements for lodging, and the orange is victims' remains. So that's a little grisly. So they each start with a random number of the different types of evidence. They all have the same number of cubes, but just how they're divided is a little different, just depending on what card they draw. And if I was playing with more than just 2 players, I would take one of these little pillar tokens here, and I would cover up that last row. You don't need to fill it up when you're playing with more players. But the goal here is to get all of the different types of evidence filled up and then make it back to the pharmacy before any of your opponents. So in a 2-player game, you just have to get a few more to get it done. I have my castle set up with the pharmacy as always the starting tile. I have basement number 1, 2, and 3. H.H. Holmes starts in basement 1. You'll know that because it has a little icon that has his picture on it. And then all the players start in the pharmacy. Now, I'm using the Kickstarter edition that comes with miniatures. I'm not sure if that's what's going to be available forever. So it may be that a version you find will have standees. They also work fine. These miniatures are pretty decent, but it's based off art that is not super highly detailed, so the miniatures aren't incredibly highly detailed themselves. So, they're good for what they are. They're not super fancy. I think you're okay with the standees if that's what you can get. On your turn, what you're going to do, first player is going to draw one of these event tiles. So I could pick, for instance, to explore the castle. Now, this says explore the castle up top. And then at the bottom, there's a bonus action. Now, you don't have to do both of these if you don't want to. You can pick one or the other, or you could certainly do both. So if I choose Explore the Castle, I would have to draw one of these tiles of rooms. And, I got a brick wall right away. So I'll put that right here. And then, since he can, as a bonus action, explore another room, okay, I'm not going to do brick walls twice. That's kind of boring to look at. So if you drew another room, he draw this one, and you just have to match them up so they're door to door. You can rotate this any way you like. Doesn't matter. I'll put it like that. And then you'll see that there is a safe here that has, in this case, a number 2. So what that means is you are going to draw or take 2 of the evidence cubes from the gondola up here, and if you're the player that is doing this, you can pick which 2. So maybe since he doesn't have a lot of white or orange, I would take a white and orange, and I would go ahead and put those in that space. So maybe I could go pick those up later. Of course, your opponent might be able to as well. Now, because I did this, my opponent could then choose to copy the top action, not the bonus, but just the top. So she could choose to explore the castle. Now, because I have it so cramped up here, she could take a room tile and put it right there. I'm not going to do that just because of the limited amount of space, but that's something she could do. So I would put this tile off to the side. Then it'd be her turn. So I'll show you, like, she might choose to move into one room. So she will move one space, and her bonus action is she can advance the Ferris wheel 1 position clockwise. So she would go ahead and do that. And anytime this gondola part here, it gets rotated to there and it doesn't have 5 cubes, you'll then take a couple out randomly from the bag and you'll place 2 more in that space. So when it comes back around, it'll be there. I think this is a black one and that shouldn't be. Okay, so I had to stop the recording for a second because there was a car alarm. I've gone ahead and put 2 evidence cubes in there because they're empty. So, okay, I'm just going to show you some of the other actions that you could pick during your turn. I could pick this, which is draw an event card, which you pull from this stack here, and it's going to have an event card. It'll give you some sort of special ability or let you do something, and it'll either say keep, like this one does, in which case you could play it face down, right by your board. If you can see here, let me make this a little bit closer. The board has these 3 kind of not really notches, but markings up top. So you can have 3 event cards kept. If you do pick another one, you have to either play one of the ones you have or discard it. Some of the event cards say play, and those you would just play as soon as you draw it. Now, you can play those event cards even on other people's turns. You just can't do it in the middle of an action. So if you or someone's moving 2 spaces, you can't move 1 space, play the event card, and then move another space. So it has to be between actions, basically. So that's something you could do. This one lets you draw an additional event card. So I'll go and put that to the side. You could collect evidence. So if you are in a room that has one of these safes with evidence on it, you could pick 1 piece out here and you could put that right to your board. This bonus action lets you collect another piece of evidence as well. So you could do that. This one lets you move up to 2 rooms, and then the bonus is it lets you move an additional 1 room. And then this one is actually pretty interesting. This is the move Holmes one. Now this one can't be copied. So to move Holmes, and this is something you'll do after all the players have gone as well, but you could play this at a turn. You will draw one of the Holmes cards, and it's going to tell you Holmes is on the move. He's going to move to either the basement, which is room number 3, or 27, which is the Whitechapel suite in this case. The person who drew this card gets to pick where Holmes is going to go of those options. Now, if none of the options are actually on the board, then Holmes just stays put, and you go ahead and discard it. So this brings into mind, okay, what happens when Holmes moves into your area? Let's say Holmes had moved here. Now, if she'd been the one to play that card and moved him there, she could then choose to evade him. That's the bonus action there. And that would let her move directly out of his room and take no ill effects. But if he had been moved there and it wasn't her choice, he would give her a Holmes Strikes cube, which is one of these, and that would go on her board. I'll try to show you this again. So you can see this little section here. It has -1s and -2s and finally -3. You'd put that there, and as long as it's on a -1, you will take one of your evidence cubes, whichever one you want. You'll take it off your board, you'll put it back into the bag, and you'll get rid of it. So you can see, as the game goes on, it could cost you quite a lot to have Holmes move into your area. The other thing is when Holmes is in a spot, you can't move into that room on purpose, and you can't do the bonus action on a card or collect evidence when he's in the same room as you. So he really does hinder you quite a bit. Now, the way the rest of the turn goes, if you're playing more than one player, you're going to each take one of these actions, one of these action tiles, until everyone has done it, and then you're going to go ahead and do the Holmes move action, which we'll get to in a minute. But if you're playing two players, the first player will take one, the second player will take one, then the first player will take another one, and the second player will take another one. So you'll resolve those actions as you take those, but basically every round then, if you're playing two players, each player is going to do 2 of the action tiles. So when all that is done, you're going to do the move Holmes action, which is a little different this time. It's still going to depend highly on the first player. So they're going to draw one of these cards, and again, like before, they'll move Holmes accordingly. Now, I've seeded this so it can show you a couple different things that could come up. So if I pull this and it's lights out, that means you're going to reshuffle the entire discard pile back into the deck. So I'm just going to kind of shove these in here for now. But if you pull it and it says Holmes goes on a rampage, you have to draw 3 additional Holmes movement cards with Holmes moving to each room that is listed there. And if your character is in one of those, then you will get a Holmes strike card. So you would go ahead and do this. He'd go to 23, then 24 if those are there. This one, he'd go to 19. And this one, there's 4. So you go left to right, top to bottom. So you'd go reception room, steel vault, ale pub, and the atrium in that order. Again, if a room is not actually out for him to go to, he just doesn't go to those, and that's about that. So once that's all done, the skeleton key passes to the other player, and that person becomes first player. Now, one thing I'll point out over here with the gondola is if this one is ever emptied out, you will then rotate the gondola like so. And I'm just going to put these same cubes back here, but you would fill this back up randomly from the bag. Now, if, let's say, 4 of these had been taken, and you discover a room that needs, let's say, 3 evidence cubes, since there's only 1, you can only draw 1 and put it in that space. You'll rotate it, but you won't then pull more from this gondola. So it'll just get filled that much. So when eventually, if it happens that you can no longer explore any more rooms or all the rooms have been used, the Explore the Castle tile is going to become an Explore the Room tile. So when you pull that, every character clockwise is going to take 1 piece of evidence from the room they're in, and then you're going to fill the entire safe of the room that your character's in with more evidence up to its limit. So it changes a little bit just to make sure that cubes can still come out. Should that happen, I think that's pretty rare for that to occur. So you'll keep playing until someone has all of the evidence slots filled up and they make it back to the pharmacy first. There are some cool little other tiles. There are that you can get via event cards mainly. There's this like bookcase tile which you can use to create a doorway between rooms that don't have a doorway connection. I don't think I have one up here that I can really show. Oh, I guess I could put it like right here, for instance. I could put that there, and now you can move between these 2 spaces, so that's kind of cool. There are also event cards that'll let you put trap doors on certain safes. So if I put this one, let's say here, I could put the landing spot elsewhere. Maybe I'd put it down in the basement. And when someone pulls an evidence cube from there, they're going to fall all the way to that landing spot. Then the trapdoor and the landing spot go away, and it's just not there anymore. But kind of a cool thing that you can do. There are some rooms that have special abilities or limitations on them, but they explain themselves pretty well when you pull them out, so I'm not going to go into them here. This set also came with an expansion, which I'm not reviewing in this case. I'm just kind of reviewing the core game, so I'm not going to go into all those rules here, but hopefully it'll give you a better idea of how the game works. It's pretty simple, really. Once you get going, it's pretty easy to get a grip of how this all comes together and flows. So, with all that being said, let me move to my final thoughts. All right, I hope that game overview was helpful to you in seeing how the game is played. Now we're going to talk about our final thoughts, starting with the artwork. And in starting with the artwork, I'm going to briefly mention the theme. I'm not confused this time. It's just the thing I'm going to do. So, the theme of this, obviously, has a lot of, it is very dark. If you look into the actual history, what happened, it's a pretty dark, pretty dang grisly theme. And they could have gone that direction with the art too, and it would have been kind of understandable if they did. And weirdly, despite the fact that there's blood spatters and corpses all about, it's really not that incredibly grisly, to be honest. It'd be like if they turned Murder, She Wrote into a cartoon. That's kind of like, it's, like it wouldn't be like entrails hanging out everywhere. It'd be, kind of like cartoony people and some blood spatter. And, that might bother some people, but it oddly doesn't seem very grisly. And I think it's good that they took the art in this direction instead of the other way, because I feel like if they made it all grisly and gory, it almost has a weird glorifying aspect, and that's not really what you want to do with a serial killer, no matter how long ago he did his thing. But that's how I feel about there anyway.
Yeah. No, I agree. I think they did a really good job of making the art. The artwork's well done. It's kind of like comic bookish, but like it's if you're okay with the theme, you'll be okay with the artwork. It's not like, I know some people they like true crimes, but they still don't like gory things. And this isn't really gory. There's, some titles that's like, there's going to be blood and stuff like that, but it's not over the top. And so I think they did a good job of balancing out the theme and the artwork and without it being too much.
Yeah, totally agree.
For the components, I think the components are actually really good with this game. Our player mats are bowing a little bit, and they kind of started doing that early on, so I'm not sure why, because it's a really heavy-duty cardstock. So hopefully, if we just weigh it down, it'll kind of fix itself out. The bags are a little cheaply made, too. They're one of those bags where when we're pulling out the cubes, we're getting strings coming with them, so I make my own dice bag, so I'm probably going to end up making us a dice bag for this game. But beyond that, I think the tiles are really well done. I really like the wheel, even though sometimes if you have the cubes in there a certain way, the wheel kind of gets stuck a little bit, but you just have to kind of move the cubes a little bit so that you can turn the dial on it. And the models are pretty well detailed for a board game. It's a softer plastic, but for a board game, I think they're good models. So.
Yeah, I agree. I do think it is a soft plastic, and you can mainly only tell that in the very few things where there's something like thin sticking out, like H.H. Holmes has like a cane or an umbrella or something he's holding behind his back, and if you wiggle the ends of that, that'll definitely wiggle. But for the most part, the models don't have things sticking out everywhere. They'll have their hands crossed or their arms kind of up against their body, so you don't really notice that it's soft because there's just not a lot that you can wiggle on them anyway. So it works out pretty well. They're not super highly detailed, but the artwork is also so cartoony that you wouldn't have ridiculous amounts of detail.
There's not a lot of detail in the artwork to.
Yeah, exactly, and that's not knocking the artwork, it's just the style that they chose. So that's, it works fine for this game. Now, the one we have is a Kickstarter edition. I think that was also available at retail, and maybe that's how they're going to continue forward. I'm not certain. So if they don't have the one with the models, they do have standees in there that are also nice thick cardboard. I think they'd be fine. It's the same art that's on the character boards. So, I mean, they work totally fine for this game. I wouldn't be that upset if that's what I had instead of the models in this particular case. I am a little bummed that those boards are kind of bowing a bit, and that they started so early. I know certain levels of humidity can do that. I don't know if that's the case here. I feel like we noticed that very early on, like soon after we got it. So I don't know if it's a matter of, how they were shipped or where they were stored, or if it's a material thing. I don't know, but the nice thing is that the player boards don't have to line up with any other boards, so it's not like, if it was the room tiles, that would suck a lot more because they'd be all jaggy all over the place and they're supposed to be connected. So it doesn't matter that much. You definitely notice it. It's not the end of the world, and maybe it won't happen to your copy. So I guess I probably shouldn't go on too much about that, but it happened to ours. Just something to be aware of. It could happen. The cubes are cool. I like the little clear cubes that so many games use now. I don't know why. I just dig those. I know some people probably prefer wooden ones, and they're definitely more environmentally friendly if they were wood. But, I mean, that's what we got, and they're cool. So, yep, that's how it's going to be. So yeah, good components overall. So, going into the theme then, I think they did a pretty good job here. Now, they had to embellish or change what happened a bit. As far as I know, I've never heard a telling of the story that said that there were these, supposed, possible accomplices who were trying to prove that they were innocent. I don't...
Yeah, I mean, he would kind of did the almost the exact opposite. He made sure that people didn't stick around long so that they didn't know what was going on.
Yeah, exactly. So that's, kind of a made-up aspect of this with more, what he did as sort of a backdrop. But that's fine. I'm not bothered by that. And I think for the narrative they've created around this, they've kept that theme really, really well. And it's very enjoyable how they work that into the game. And I can imagine sneaking around and be like, oh gosh, I got to get these because this will show them that I'm not involved. And I think they did a pretty good job incorporating the theme, even though it didn't completely stick to the history and, having it work with the story of the game.
Yeah, I agree. And they definitely did change the story a little bit to make it fit the game, but they incorporated a lot of the original story into the game too, like the gas chambers and the trapdoors, and you can open up a room and suddenly there's a brick wall there.
Yeah.
So they did definitely take in a lot of the original story behind H.H. Holmes and incorporate that into the game. And so I think they did a really good job of doing a balance of making a fun game and incorporating the history behind it. So gameplay. I think it's a really fun game, and it has a much different feel than I think any game that we've played. There's some aspects that are there that are similar to other games, but altogether I haven't really seen a game incorporate it together like this game. I actually really enjoy games that have a living map, and it's something that I didn't really think that I would like because I'm a little OCD, and with my dyslexia, having tiles randomly coming out and they're being all, you can put them out however you want. It seems like something that would bother me, but I actually really enjoy it a lot, especially in this game. And I like the fact that it's kind of random where H.H. Holmes goes, and even when he does this rampage, that can be really devastating, but it could also not affect you. And so I like that there's kind of these aspects of there's definitely a lot of strategy to the game, but then it's not a game that I feel like you can just be like, okay, well, I got this strategy and that's going to make me win all the time.
Right.
So I appreciate that.
So yeah, I think we have, at least one game that has the whole I do this thing and then you can follow it mechanism, which I think is really cool. But I think it's, I don't know, I really like how they did it in this particular game, because especially if you're playing with multiple players, more than one other person, I should say. you have a lot to keep, like, do I really want to play this because now that person's going to be able to do this thing, and then, they might pick this next time. I don't want to make it sound like it's way more strategic than it actually is, but, like, you got to think about these things a little bit, and, things are going to happen that you just can't stop sometimes, but I really like the way it did that. I also like the board and being able to put things out however you want. I have a problem where I always want to explore rooms, even if that's not the best thing I could be focusing on. I should be trying to get like all the evidence, but I'm like, well, what if there's better evidence in the next room? And
how big can we make this board?
Yeah, exactly. Like I don't know what my problem is. So not the best thing, but nonetheless, it's fun to do. So I mean, that's really what matters at the end of the day, I suppose. But yeah, I like it. I like the weird tension of seeing where H.H. Holmes is going to go, even though, like, he's not going to kill you. But, if he takes away some of your evidence, that could end up costing you down the road. You never know for sure. One of the early games that we played is one of the very first we did. We had the bad luck where we just pulled certain rooms that didn't have doorways spanning off, and we had, like, the brick walls come out, and we just barely grew the castle at all. And it was so early in our plays that I was like, oh, this isn't good, because, like, we couldn't do very much. H.H. Holmes wouldn't move around. We couldn't go into the room he was in. It just made it really, really a not exciting game. Like, it was a lot of just kind of wait until we can accomplish something, and then we'll do it. But I really think that was a weird edge case. I don't think that's typical at all.
Yeah, it's like we had that where we put, I think, 3 tiles out, and then the next game we went through, we won the game, but we still had a lot of options of being able to expand the room. So we just decided to be like, okay, if we could just keep exploring, when would we finally finish this map? And we actually were able to get through all the tiles and then finally ending the map. So there's a big range in how many tiles you can get out in the game. I think for us in a 2-player game, we normally get between 5 and 8 tiles out. We've done some more and some less, but I think the 5 to 8 tiles for the 2-player game is pretty typical for us.
Yeah, I think so too. And, I think that there is a big difference in how this game feels at 2 players versus how it feels as you get more. We played it at 2 and at 4, and I feel like it's a lot crazier with more people. There's so many more things that you have to consider with other people going around. There's event cards that are certainly more useful with more players that may or may not even come to play very much with 2 players. And the cool thing about that is, even though I can say like they are both different, and I do think I prefer the higher count game, I still think the 2 players really good as well. Like, I'm not like, oh, the 2-player game, no, I guess we'll play that. Like, no, it's still good. It's just, it has a different feel, but I like it.
Yeah, I really like the 2-player game. I wish our group of gamer friends were more into a game like this. Unfortunately, I think we have one group of friends that would be into this game, yeah, and the rest of them aren't. So we don't get to play at the higher player count very often, but I do. The higher player count does add a lot more excitement to the game, but I really do enjoy the 2-player game still.
Yep, me as well. So, should we get our final scores?
Yep.
Okay. So, I also have done written reviews for BoardGameSquad.com. This isn't an advertisement. I'm just telling you. So, one of the first reviews I did was actually for this game, and I went back to look and just see what score I gave it, and they did a 5-star rating, and I gave it 3.5 stars, which would translate into a 7-star rating on my scale, where 5 is totally average, 0 is trash, and 10 is perfect. But having played this game again more recently, and I guess just with time and giving it some thought, it's actually kind of risen in my estimation a bit. And I don't know if my taste has somehow changed in a way, or if it's just a matter of, compared to some other games we're playing, this fits a nice niche where it's relatively quick and has a lot of interaction, and like you said, is very different I think, from a lot of other games we played. But I've actually decided to go ahead and boost it up to an 8. I think I like this game better than I did even when I first played it, and I liked it pretty well then. So.
I'm gonna give it a 9. I really, really like this game a lot. And we both like true crime stuff, so that does help boost it up a little bit. If you don't really like true crime, I can't see you playing a game with the name murder in it. But I do really enjoy this game a lot, and it like I said, it does play differently than it fills a different void when we're trying to kind of decide what kind of game we want to play. It doesn't really fit into a lot of the other games that we have that it's like, well, I want to play a deck builder game, or I want to play this. It has its own feel to it, so I really enjoy that it brings its own feel and gameplay to it. And like I said, I wish our group of friends, it was a game that they would want to play more, but I still enjoy playing it just the 2 players. So
yeah, me as well. We have a lot of friends that are either just only interested in co-op because they don't like conflict, or they're only interested in co-op because, oh boy, do they like conflict, and to the point where they fear it will cause problems.
Even the co-op games, they fight.
Yeah, exactly.
So.
Exactly, which is kind of hilarious. So, but, it's just kind of how it is. And then the number of friends we have that are into true crime is also, that's another, niche thing. So, whatever. But yeah, I keep thinking that I'll be able to talk them into it at some point, but we'll see how it goes. But anyway, we gave it, I'm getting all sidetracked here. But yeah, an 8 and a 9, pretty fantastic scores. I definitely recommend, trying to find this game. Check it out. It's absolutely worth your time, especially if you're a true crime fan. Mm-hmm. Really, check it out. Check out the history of H.H. Holmes as well while you're at it if you haven't, because it's bonkers. He's a Batman villain, I'm telling you. He's an absolute Batman villain. Anyway, do you have any other thoughts?
No.
Okay, I didn't want to cut you out there. So, I hope you've enjoyed this video. I hope it's helped you decide whether or not this is a game that might be for you. If you did enjoy it, please hit like and subscribe and click the little bell icon so you'll know about the next time I put out a video. Otherwise, until then, I look forward to seeing you all around the table at All Games New and Old.
Bye.
Bye. Herman Webster Mudgett, as he was born, became later. H.H. Holmes was born. God, I'm botching this. Okay. In this game, you are associate. This face doesn't belong in front of anybody. Yeah, that can throw a little.
Hi.
Hi. Do you have anything to say about Crimes and History, H.H. Holmes Murder Castle?
No.
Otherwise, I look forward to seeing you around the table at All Games in every time. Every time. This is the part I'm most likely to mess up.
And you're the one that came up with it.
Alright, that's pretty good.
Yeah.
Okay. Should I go check on the kids?
Yeah.
Alright, cool. I'll deal with that later. David, what a nice place you have here. I do believe I promised you a visit.